Well, hello there, beautiful people. I hope you're feeling cute and that your week is going as smoothly as possible. In today's episode, I am in conversation with the most impressive, beautiful, and authentic Nozizwe Dube. Nozizwe is a very smart little sister who I got to meet back in 2019. I was following her work and I ended up inviting her in Vocal About It, which is the previous podcast that I was producing. And we recorded an episode on the need to decolonize education. We kept in touch since then, and I'm basically her biggest fan. Yeah. She ended up inviting me in her podcast, Nozizwe Delves Into, which I invite all of y'all to go follow and support, where we talked about how the COVID-19 crisis was exacerbating a lot of different inequalities and how bad a lot of governments were handling the whole thing. So Nozizwe is a law student studying at KU Leuven, where she's currently working on a master thesis on topics linked to art laws and human rights law. She was the president of the Flemish Youth Council for 3 years. She was also named Young European of the Year in 2017. She's also a writer and a public speaker, and she's also a human rights advocate. And her sister is only 25. Come through, Diasporic talent. I had a lot of fun recording this episode with Nozizwe. It was actually the very first episode that I got to record ever for the season. That was back in the studio in, I want to say, November. And as you'll see and hear, there was a lot of laughter, of joy, of genuine life sharing, of tears, also of growth, of love, and yeah, it's giving black joy and realness, babes. So I hope you'll get to enjoy it as well. To make sure to like the content wherever you are, give 5-star ratings on Apple Podcast, give a little comment if you're on a platform that allows to do so. And yeah, let's normalize black people being joyful. Yeah, let's go.
Imagine.
My God. All right. So, recording today the very first episode of Reclaiming Our Joy. I'm not sure if this is going to be the first that I'm going to publish because, there's a lot of strategy around all of this. But super excited to have a little sister, Nozizwe Dube, joining me today to record an archive of her joy.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, so good to have you. Oh no, actually, yeah, there's something else. I love to ask my sisters how are they feeling for real. So not just, yeah, I'm good, how are you? Just like, for real. Which energies are you on? What are the vibes? And it doesn't have to be around joy because, our lives are not just all about joy. But yeah, what are the energies, girl?
Yeah. So I am feeling at this moment in time, I am feeling calm because I am that type of person. If I see people I haven't seen in a long time or people that I really care about, I can really just genuinely forget about everything I'm stressing about for like that moment in time. So I feel very calm. Um, I have to admit though that this podcast was like slightly different in the sense that usually I'm sort of like invited to speak about like, I don't know, the work that I'm doing or like my opinions on like certain societal things. And that for me is just very like easy to just open my mouth and start talking. But when it comes to like real personal things, I've noticed like that's a lot tougher for me to like do it knowing that a lot more people are listening. But I was like, I really want to do it because I enjoy listening to that when other people do it.
Right.
So I'm slightly anxious about that, but not like in the sense that I'm not going to be able to speak later on. But like in general, I do think like I'm quite stressed as a student anyway because like the exam season is coming up and then there's a lot of deadlines obviously that sort of like accumulates towards the end of the semester, so that is quite stressful. But in this moment I feel like a lot more calm than I usually would have
Good.
at another moment in the day.
Yes, oh, that's great to hear because we deserve some calm, girl. I know that you go through so much throughout the year in general, and I think this year has been particularly tricky. So
Yeah.
great to hear that you're feeling calm, and welcome on Reclaiming Our Joy.
Thank you so much for
Yes.
having me.
So the first question that I want to ask you for the people who will not be able to actually see you, could you describe yourself?
So I am a dark-skinned black woman. I have braids, like long box braids, that are slightly like red at the ends, like at the tips. I am wearing a little bit of makeup, with some gold earrings and a white blouse with like this blue and white tweed coat, like little jacket, and then some blue washed jeans, and then some black boots, basically. So that's very like to the T what I look like and what I'm wearing now. Yeah.
Dope. Okay. I just want to add that Nozizwe looks beautiful, always very stylish, with that little British classy style, coming through with the earrings, braids always on point, So voila, let's give them credits. Okay.
Thank you.
Yes. I want to ask you also, because I'm going to do a separate intro where I'm going to talk about your work and all of the things that you do. But how would you think people that are around you and your loved ones would describe you?
I think what I do hear a lot from people who they know me for a longer time, they say, "Oh, Nozizwe is like really." I'm very short in the sense like I think I'm like 1 meter, maybe 60 or something like that. So a lot of people say, "Oh, Nozizwe is very short," because usually I'm like the shortest among my friend group or like even in family and stuff. Okay, my mom is shorter than me, but still, people say, "Oh, like Nozizwe is very short," but they do say like I have a very full personality in the sense that I am someone, if I'm speaking, I think I do know how to draw a little bit of attention to what I'm saying so that people really listen to what I'm saying. And in that sense, it's like a big contrast, I think, with how tiny I may look in real life, but how I can draw that attention to, like, I think mostly about what I'm saying. I think I am good with words in that sense. And that draws people's attention to me in that sense, I think. So I think maybe that's how they would like describe me, like a short, small woman, but who does have quite a very full and large personality, I think.
I love that. I love that, and I concur. Okay. So as you know, we are here talking about Black joy a lot. We're going to talk about the joy that Black women and non-binary Black people experience, and that we rarely get to talk about, on a mic for somebody else to listen. So when I tell you Black joy, what comes to mind?
I think of freedom, and I think just happiness, and living unconditionally, not being confined in boxes that we didn't necessarily create ourselves, but that we do find ourselves in, and that are very hard to break out of. So I think like that freedom aspect and that liberty, and just living your life on your own terms without being conditioned by these other ideas and ways of life that were thrown upon us, I think that's the very first thing I think about. Yeah.
That's beautiful. Freedom, yo. Freedom.
Yeah, I think that's very important. Because I do feel like the normal life of like being a Black person can be quite strenuous and very stressful. And I do feel that in a sense, just being joyful in itself is quite an act of like defiance, and is very what's that word? It's like a way of not necessarily like actively protesting something, but you are in a sense just defying that entire existence that we are put into, that is very confining. It's just like an act of resistance. Yes, I think it's just an act of resistance in its own, just being happy as Black people, and I think we do deserve that.
Say it.
We do. I think we do. So yeah, that definitely is. Those are the first things that come to mind for me. Yeah.
That's beautiful. I think it's so true, and definitely something that we need to embrace and remind ourselves much more. That's just the act of us walking in the streets, breathing, the two of us talking here in the studio, like it's definitely an act of resistance in a way.
Yeah.
Because that was not the plan of white supremacy.
No.
Okay.
We were not supposed to be here.
Right.
We were not supposed to be existing, let alone be here. So I think in itself that is like a big deal.
Definitely. I want to ask you about your childhood. So I know that you grew up on the continent in Zimbabwe, and I'd love to get to know a little bit more about that and ask you if there's a specific childhood memory that you cherish. And please take your time. I love my little storytelling, you know. So if you can contextualize, like help us to visualize that and really take your time with it.
Yeah, so I was born in Zimbabwe, and I then left there when I was 14 years old to then come over to Belgium. So in a sense, I really did have that opportunity to grow up and really have these very vivid memories that I still have about living in Zimbabwe. And I think in a sense, I'm very grateful for that, because I do meet a lot of people here in Belgium, for example, who maybe their parents lived in like an African country and grew up in an African country, but then their parents moved here before they had the children that I then know, you know, so these children are then born in European countries, for example, and they only go to like the African countries of origin for holiday and stuff. And that's a very different experience than someone like me, who really genuinely grew up only knowing of Zimbabwe and then, you know, coming to Belgium later on. But I think my most cherished experience would be when it's not one specific experience, but I think it's more the moments that I had with my grandfather in Zimbabwe, because then I would really have to contextualize a bit. So I was born in Zimbabwe, and then my mom was a single mom from when I was very, very young, like literally just a couple of months old. So I then grew up. I have to contextualize again. So in Zimbabwe,
zoom out.
It's like I'm thinking, I start talking and I'm like, no, I actually have to contextualize that part because actually people won't understand. But no, so like in Zimbabwe, you have like a lot of different languages are spoken. And then obviously you do have like English as like this unifying language because colonialism.
I mean,
obviously, you know, so it's in a sense, it's like this unifying language. It's the language used in administration and all of those things. Schools, everything is done in English, companies, all of that stuff. But my mother, she is Shona. So she speaks Shona, and her family, they're all Shona. And my father, who I basically do not know, I'd prefer to call him a sperm donor.
Yes, let's do that. Yes.
In a sense, because I feel like I can't really call him my father because I feel like he didn't take up that role. So he is Ndebele, which is like a very different language, and they also have like different customs as well. My name itself is actually a Ndebele name. So when people see me, they think sometimes, if you're from Zimbabwe, they're going to be like speaking Ndebele from like Bulawayo, which is a part where they usually speak Ndebele. Or a lot of people think I'm South African because that's also a very South African sounding name as well. But no, the thing is, I first spoke Ndebele, but then because my mother was in a single mom, and then she moved a lot to like mostly the Shona speaking parts of Zimbabwe. And then because I also then started living with my grandparents as I was slightly older, I then basically had to start speaking Shona. I was taught Shona because my grandparents, my mother's parents, didn't speak Ndebele, which I spoke as the very first language. So they started teaching me Shona because I was also living with them. So I think it's very funny when people see me, like, and they're Zimbabwean or like South African, they may start speaking to me in like Ndebele, and then I'm like, I actually don't understand. And then like Zimbabweans, they might see my name, and then they start speaking to me in English, maybe because they don't speak Ndebele.
Right.
But then I start speaking to them in Shona, and they're like, oh wait, you actually speak Shona, like because it's not very common.
Right.
So in that sense, that then brings me to like the context of how I was very close to my grandfather, because I think most of my my most cherished moments definitely are like with my grandfather. And the whole reason why I lived with him is because of the fact that my father was not necessarily in my life, has never been in my life, essentially. And my mother, being a single mother, she did rely on like her parents to sort of like help in that sense with raising me. So I started living with my grandparents from a very, very young age, like before being in kindergarten and stuff. So I started living with my grandparents, and my grandfather has literally been like the only father figure that I ever really had in my life. And so I remember, I just know he was always this very affirming person of anything. Anything that I did and everything that I did, he was always very affirming. And I think in a sense it did come from him being, my family, a lot of them have been like teachers and in the education sector. So my grandfather and my grandmother, they were both teachers, and then they both were like principals at like schools, so like headmasters and everything. So in that sense, I had a lot of educators in my family. And I think maybe obviously that does come from there. When you're working with children for a lot of your life, you know how to sort of like affirm their dreams and their aspirations and all of those things. But I definitely think he definitely understood that he had that important role of being this father figure in a sense, because he knew that I was not going to have that from anybody else, essentially. And at the moment, obviously, I didn't know that. I didn't know that. Like, I was a baby. I was a child. I didn't understand. But now that I am older, I just do remember like those days when I would come from school and then I would be doing my homework. And then he would be talking to me like, what did you learn today at school? And then I would be explaining all of these things to him. And he's like, oh my God, you're very smart.
Oh,
you know, and he was always like, okay, so what you going to do when you're older? And then for a long time, I did say I really wanted to be a lawyer because I just felt like it would be so interesting to, study law. And then he would be like, he'd always be like, yeah, you should do that. Then you can defend us when people when people here do something bad towards us. And then I think at a certain period of time, I wanted to do something like in the medical field. And then he'll be like, yeah, you should do that. Then you can cure us when we're sick. He always had like these very witty and funny responses. He really liked, like, Zimbabwe. It's not like you have harsh winters or anything like here. It's considerably warm, even during winter time and all of that stuff. And he really liked, what he really liked doing is he liked going outside. He would take a chair, he'd go outside, and he would sit under the tree, and it would just be like, and he would sit under the sun for like just to sort of let the sun soak in, and then he would move under the shade of the tree when like it gets too hot and everything. And I remember as a child just thinking, how can you because like he had retired, of course, so he was really just enjoying his retired life basically.
Nice,
so I was thinking like, how can you genuinely enjoy sitting in the shade? For me, it just didn't make sense because it was like, there's so many things to do. Why are you sitting in the shade? And why are you or like moving to the sun and like alternating between the sun and the shade and all of those things? And now that I'm older and I'm like, wow, I can only imagine. Yes. That must have been like, very, very, very nice to just have that. And I feel like I've been thinking a lot more about like my life in Zimbabwe now, because obviously I'm getting older and I'm living in Belgium a bit longer now. I'm still just been here for like 10 years. So I still have lived in Zimbabwe longer than I've lived in Belgium in a sense, because I moved when I was 14. But I do realize that a lot of my memories, I'm starting to like forget them, like memories from Zimbabwe. But I think the most vivid ones are the ones that I definitely did have with my grandfather, and him having that very important like fatherly role for me. And I think he died a couple of years ago, which was obviously really hard because I was here and he was in Zimbabwe. And then I think it was also really tough just sort of like realizing that I was not necessarily there like during his last days and his last hours. And I feel like that is very painful. And I think that's like this common diaspora experience, I think, for a lot of Black people who have like family elsewhere. And I think that's, yeah, you definitely do, like, it still does haunt me a lot. I promise I was not gonna cry.
Oh, love.
I'm sorry. Yeah. Yeah.
It's very normal to cry.
Yeah, I was thinking, like, should I even talk about this? But I think it's so important too.
You will have a look at the final result, and if you feel like this is not okay, then I'll remove it. It's really
No, I
up
think
to
it'll
you,
be
love.
fine, because I think it's very important to speak about it, because I feel I don't really know how other people cope with similar things.
Yes.
I think sometimes as well you can sort of feel a bit of a guilt,
Yeah.
because you've known these people for so long, and then this guilt of knowing you were not there when they were dying can be really, really hard.
For sure.
Yeah.
Okay. We can take a minute, love.
Yeah.
But thank you so much for sharing this. It's
I
such
know,
a...
it was supposed to be like reclaiming our joy, and I'm crying.
Girl, it's this is part of our Black lives. This is part of our experiences. This is part of
Yeah.
diasporic experiences. It makes so much sense. I unfortunately didn't get to know my grandparents like that. But I always love to hear such stories, specifically with Black men, because
Yeah.
when they're around, and that they behave in such way, it's such joy to listen to, these memories where they just showed up, like they were here. I love that. And I unfortunately don't have a lot of those around me, to be honest with you. But when that happens, I really appreciate that.
Yeah,
Actually,
I think for me as well, I think that's why he's very important, because that's literally the only Black man, and for a very long period of my life, the only man
Yeah.
who I genuinely felt like he showed up and really ensured that I was that I was well taken care of, and that I was and that they showed up. It's so important. And I feel like it's very important to speak about that, because obviously, like, he's obviously a very important person, and I cherish those experiences. But it's also just an experience that's obviously then linked to like a very sad ending, I guess. But I just hope everybody has those, at least one or two, just somebody in their lives, especially as children. Because I do feel like I've been seeing a lot on Twitter. I see a lot of like discussions when a lot of people are saying, yeah, a child needs two parents. And then people are like rebutting it, and they're saying like, yeah, but literally all a child needs is not necessarily like two parents, because for all I know, I'm happy at the end of the day that my father was not like in the picture, because I'd rather him not be there entirely than be there but not be available emotionally or something like that.
Or
I think that would just be worse.
Yes.
I think what you just need is just somebody who shows up as a child. That's basically all I wanted. And he did that. And it doesn't necessarily have to be like your biological mother or father, whatever. I think it just has to be somebody. I think that's very important for children. But basically, long story short, that was my most cherished childhood memory. I can't pinpoint one, but just my grandfather and how all the small little things he did and said and all of those things, and how he, as I was growing older, he would always be very interested in everything that I was doing, because he just died like, I think, maybe 2 years ago now. So he was always still very interested,
Yes.
wanting to know what I'm doing. He wanted me to send photos so that he could see how I changed, all of those things.
So sweet.
Yeah, that is definitely, I think, the most cherished experience.
What's his name?
His name is Michael Makande. Yeah,
I'm sure he's very close by and he must be so amazingly proud of you.
I hope so.
Yes. So thought for him.
Okay.
One thing that I feel is very important and a very serious topic for us is food. So I would love to know what's either the latest meal that you really enjoy, you were like, oh, yes, or food in general that's like your favorite food or your favorite meal. Who is it done by or where do you find it? What's good?
Okay. So, food. The thing is, I don't, as a student, I think that's also like a different, like definitely the answer depends on like your living situation. But
Very
as a
true.
student, like you're living on the student budget.
Yeah.
So it's not like I'm going to eat the fanciest food. Sometimes it's also just really out of convenience and all of that stuff as well, obviously. But I think the meal I've been eating the most lately, I think it's mostly really mainly because I'm a student and I just want to be quick. I think it's mainly like I like chili con carne a lot, and then I put it on like a wrap. And not necessarily all, because I think it's very popular to eat it with like maybe with rice or something like that, or whatever it is that you eat it with. But I mostly just put it like on a wrap, and then I think it's just very, very, it's very filling, and it's very delicious. And I think you can have a lot of spices in it and all of those things. I think that's what I've been really liking the most. But to be honest, that's being very, very honest.
Please, that's what we're here for, girl. Come through with the honesty.
I really don't like cooking.
Okay, that's cool. That's fine. That's fine, girl. I don't judge. It's cool.
I don't like cooking myself, but I really like it when other people do it for me.
Oh, yes. Yes, same here. Yes.
But I'm just genuinely also just a very bad cook. No, I think it's just, it just depends on if I have a lot of time for it, and but I just don't like it. And I feel kind of sad saying that, because I do definitely think like, especially for like an African household and all of those things, food is super important. But I just don't.
Babe, it's completely fine. You know what? Let's normalize not liking to cook. Okay.
Yeah. I don't mind like helping when somebody else is doing it.
Right.
I'm not necessarily the one who's supposed to be leading it, because otherwise then things will go down south. But I do like helping and just eating what somebody else is making.
Eating is great. You know what? Okay. Yeah. But I feel like we should also, normalize again, like just not being into that, because I think there's so many expectations around us Black women knowing how to cook, knowing how to nurture, naturally, like, you know what, no, sometimes no, and it's cool. So it's cool.
Sometimes I do feel bad about it, but then I guess I make up in other areas.
Right, we can't be good at everything.
Exactly.
Okay, yes. Yeah, perfect. I want to know, what is the last conversation that left you with like a super sweet, warm, joyful feeling?
I think I was thinking about this one, and I think it was, for me, it was when lately as in like the last couple of years, I've been really worrying, because now I'm studying and I'm like in my master's, which is obviously, I think, very exciting because you're advancing and all of those things. But I've noticed that I wasn't always too excited about advancing like with the studies, because I am and I was very terrified about going onto the job market. It just looks so scary,
Mm-hmm.
so scary on the job market. And this was even way before everything with the COVID-19 crisis started, which
Right.
has just heightened things a lot more, I think. Um, but I just had this fear already because of having seen other Black people around me in Belgium really struggling to find a job or just not finding one at all because of their Blackness. So them being really structurally and institutionally discriminated due to their Blackness and not finding a job, or if they do find one, it is very much lower than the qualifications that they have. So that has been like my experience with a lot of Black people in my family and around me. So in a way that has creeped up in me and has really caused me this to have this irrational fear of basically finishing studies and eventually going onto the job market. And then I was talking, I think like a lot of times when I speak about these things to people from like, and I'm genuinely saying like, I am genuinely terrified about this. A lot of people look at me as if I'm crazy because they think, oh, but Nozizwe, you're doing quite well. Like not just when it comes to school, but you have a lot of other extracurricular activities that may be appreciated by people when you're looking for jobs. But for me, a lot of the people that I know, they were similar to me, but they still struggled and had a very, very hard time. So a lot of people sort of wave that fear away and sort of like say, oh, you know, you're being irrational. But the last conversation that I had that really did leave me with a very sweet feeling was just talking to somebody who did finally listen to that. I don't want to call it irrational fear because in a way it is very irrational because it's just based on what I have been seeing around me, and it's also based on statistics that I also see, like, you know, there's studies done on this. But it was a very nice conversation where that person really took the time to listen and affirm those feelings. And yeah, I think that was, and at the same time as well, they were also doing it in a way of saying, you know, it's very normal to have those feelings and think that way based on what you've seen around you in your surroundings and based on statistics. But let's also look at yourself and see what you genuinely have done, all the work that you have done. Because I think that's also something very human that we sometimes forget about the amazing things that we've done. And you genuinely have to be reminded about them. Yeah, I think it was just very nice in that sense because that person really took the time and really reminded me about a lot of things that I may have brushed away and I may have forgotten or just wasn't paying enough attention to. So that really did leave me feeling a lot better and feeling very affirmed and feeling very, very good about myself as well. So yeah, I think that was definitely, yeah, it just really did leave me with a very lovely feeling and very feeling very much more at ease.
Right.
At least like depending from like when I started off talking about it. So I definitely think that was one of the, I think that was one of the last conversations that definitely did leave me with a sweet feeling.
Right. Yeah, that's super.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's also a reminder of how much we have to face a lack of listening and a lack of affirmation as well, which then, of course, results in us, doubting ourselves and creating rational to less rational fears or thoughts and stuff. And I feel like, in general, people are quite bad at listening. I will say this.
Yes.
And when you have somebody in front of you who's like actively listening, meaning they don't just listen to like answer real quick and like give their feedback and like, talk about their experience that they can relate to, but just really be like, actually, what you're telling me is making me think of this and that. And have you thought about this? I think that when you say this, maybe we can, and just like providing solutions and helping you, fix a certain problem or like just really listen in a way to find solutions for you and just affirm you and remind you that you are the shit because this is very important. So that sounds great, actually.
Yeah, I definitely think what you're saying is very, very true. What you're saying about not a lot of people actually listen. And I think sometimes I have been very guilty of that in the sense that I catch myself not necessarily listening to what the person is saying, but just trying to convince of the person who's speaking otherwise, but not really genuinely listening and trying to understand why that person may be saying whatever it is that they're saying. And I think that's very important. And I think it's something that we as people, as human beings, have to really learn again.
For real. For real.
Like genuinely listen to what people are saying. And sometimes, you know, even when we may not understand why somebody who in our eyes may seem to have everything, or at least to have worked towards something, that maybe that person still feels that they're not entirely there yet. And sometimes those feelings just need to be validated.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I
Totally.
think that is.
This convincing thing, that's some low student shit. Say it.
I know. Yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
Seen that before. What is the funniest thing that you saw, that you heard lately? Something that really cracked you up. You were like, yo, this was not expected, but you just started laughing as if.
Oh my God. I have to think so hard about that.
Mm-hmm.
Usually I have to say that when I'm laughing, it's because of like something I've seen on Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe like on TikTok or something, right? But I have to think. Oh yeah, okay, now I remember. Mm-hmm. it was on Twitter again. I think the entire reason why I laugh this whole year has just been because of things I see on Twitter.
Yeah.
Because we're not seeing people. So like as in like physically. But
yeah.
It was so you know how everyone is just like, oh my God, 2020 is just the worst. And in a sense, people just have this thing of like, let's just go on to 2021 because then everything will be all right. We can put 2020 behind us, you know, and all of these problems will be gone.
Yeah.
So someone had put on this, you know, like on Twitter, you have these like two photos, and then you're basically like, when A happens or when B happens, you know, like two photos comparing.
Oh, like how it started, how it's going.
Exactly,
yes.
Yeah, that type of trend. So this person then put on it on Twitter. The tweet said, wait. So like you know, like it was like 31 December 2020, 23 hours 59.
Right.
And then it was this person, like a photo of a person like very happy, like yes, you know, we're almost there. And then the next photo was like 31 December 2020, 23 hours 60. And I was like, that would most definitely happen in 2020.
Listen, 2020 does not want to end.
I was like, yeah, this is very fitting. Very fitting.
This is hilarious. I didn't see this one. Oh my God.
But it was also like related to that one on TikTok. There was this TikTok that I saw. It started off with this girl in a couple of weeks or months ago. Mm-hmm. She started the trend on TikTok, I think. At least her video was very popular, where she was acting like it was God and then an angel. So then the God was like, oh, can you go? So God said, oh, can you go and, you know, give the dinosaurs some more meat to make the meteor. And then the angel thought God had said, go and throw a meteor on Earth, which basically caused the extinction of dinosaurs. So it was like the angel had heard wrongly. I thought meteor of like the one that they came to Earth and basically caused like the end of the dinosaurs. You know? So that started the trend. But then so there was another video made sort of like in the same realm, but this one was like God and an angel, and then God had said to the angel, okay, so it's so TikTok is just crazy. So God said to the angel, okay, so can you go? Oh, have you lined up all the different events that should happen in the 2020s? That's what God said. But this
Right.
angel thought, oh, God meant I have to do all of these events in 2020.
Listen, that must have happened. Okay.
Exactly.
That must have happened.
So then God is like, what do you mean? Did you put them in the events for 2020s? And the angel's like, no, 2020. And then like there's this realization of like, oh no.
Oh my God. That would explain so much.
That would explain it. That would explain it. From Corona to all of the almost world wars we had,
For real.
to the elections, everything. It was supposed to happen in different years. But the angel made a mistake.
The angel. Listen, I hope he got fired in the meantime because this is too much.
No, they were
We are
laughing.
suffering.
God and the angel were laughing.
Rude.
I know.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, that was those are the things that made me laugh the most. I have to say, TikTok and Twitter are usually the reason why I'm laughing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. Cool. Oh my God, that was funny. What are the things that are helpful for you to nurture a good and stable stage of mental health? Especially in these, COVID times, and also because you amaze me in the ways that you accumulate so many activities. You are there writing articles, talking to white people on TV about racism, old white men. You're doing so many different things and trying to, finish up your studies, which is also, of course, not easy. So what are the little things or the routines that you enjoy to make sure that you stay sane up in here?
Yeah. So yeah, definitely. I think I also have to learn to say no. To like things when I'm just basically, I just don't have any more bandwidth to be doing something else. So I think that's very important. Just like, it's not something I'm doing like too well at the moment, but it's something that I definitely think people should do and that I should do better. And in a way, it's so important just for your mental health as well.
Right.
Because you just need to be able to have time for yourself to actually just not do anything. You need that. You don't have to fill up every single space of the day with doing things. It's not healthy.
Yeah.
So I think I definitely have to learn that. But something that I am getting good at is journaling.
Okay.
So yeah. So the thing is, I just had my birthday like 2 weeks ago. Yeah, it was my birthday 2 weeks ago.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. So I was like, oh my God, I'm getting older.
How old did you turn? Oh, please. How old did you turn?
25.
Okay.
I mean, it feels old.
Yeah.
I mean, like, it just feels like very...
It's
I don't know,
adult
major.
shit,
It's major.
Yes.
It's like a
quarter
major
of a century.
I know. It's
It
like
is
a
something.
major milestone in a sense. So I was really thinking about like, okay, where is my life heading? And sort of like doing an evaluation of my life up until that period of time basically. And the last, I think like, what should I say? Something like 6 years or something. I stopped journaling because I was, as a young person, even as a teenager, just kept like a diary. And maybe it wasn't like journaling in the sense that I would understand it now, but just putting down my thoughts that I had throughout the day on a piece of paper, like in a book. Definitely, I felt like it helped me in a sense just to get the thoughts out of my head and put them on a paper and just be able to leave them there.
Right, yeah.
In a sense, at the time. But then I stopped along the way because life gets in the way.
Yes.
And I thought it's not really necessary anymore. But then I was thinking back like on my birthday, and then I was like, wait, the last time I felt like I had a bit of stability in my life was the time when I was still writing in my diary. So I was like, maybe there's a correlation there. So let me start journaling again. So ever since, I have been taking up the journaling thing again. And I must say that it does really, really help me to like get those thoughts out and put them on paper. My head just feels less clouded. I usually do that before I go to sleep. I know other people do that like in the mornings, for example. But I feel like for me it works to do that before I go to sleep in a sense. So just writing down my thoughts of the day, writing down things that you're grateful for, that you're happy about, all of those things. There's like a lot of videos on YouTube, because that's also a thing. I really like watching YouTube vlogs and all of those things. A lot of people who also, you know, speak about their journaling experiences, how they started. So I think for me, that has definitely like helped me with gaining a bit of more stability in a sense. So I would highly recommend.
Okay.
Highly recommend. Also, something that I also did, I think a lot of the things that I've been doing now, like ever since my birthday, has just been things that I used to do when I was a teenager.
Right.
Another thing that has really been helping me and that has always helped me is having vision boards.
I really want to try one.
Yeah. It sounds so childish, but
No, girl.
it's so, I don't know, there's just something about having these vision boards. And you know, I'm usually at my desk because now everything with online learning and all of those things. So I'm usually at my desk anyway. But when I was a teenager, I used to study as well at my desk. And then I'll just have this vision board, and how that vision board genuinely just, in a sense, helped to guide me to like make certain decisions about where I wanted to go in life, what I wanted to do as like activities, career-wise, all of those things. There's just something about vision boards that just helps you in that. And I think, I don't know if there's like anything like extensive research maybe down on it, but I just think there's something about vision boards. I can't articulate it, but I think that it genuinely helps.
That makes sense. Yeah.
I think it just helps you have something before you, like a vision. I think I definitely needed that for me, like a lot of times when I'm studying. And I felt like I was not in the right place, maybe like in my studies, because there's basically no one who looks like me.
Girl.
In my studies and all of those things. But just having a photo or anything of like a Black woman in a career field that I see for myself on this vision board genuinely just keeps me motivated. So I think, people should try it.
Okay.
Highly recommend.
Noted. Try, people. Vision board. Let's go.
Yeah.
Okay.
And one last thing that I have been really liking a lot. It's like, these are very recent things I started. I don't know, like my birthday just made me think a lot more. I also really started like investing like in maybe very materialistic, but the things I use are not expensive in any sense because student budget. But I have been focusing on like a skincare routine with very affordable products, but that have really made like a big difference in for at least for my skin. So there's this very big craze about the ordinary products.
Yes.
Yes. So I know they're quite affordable, at least for me, like a student budget. Some of the products, at least, are quite affordable. So I've been really investing in that and just doing that, like, just before I go to sleep, and it's very calming. And I think, like, it's also just very good to obviously take care of your skin, take care of your body, all of those things as well. So, I'm not using any expensive products because I think when people hear a skincare routine, they're thinking,
right,
you know,
yes.
But I don't have that. I don't have that budget. But it's also just genuinely something that's very calming to do and has benefited, I think, my mental health in a sense.
I really love that. I think it's so true. I started late with like taking proper care of my skin and, you know, and of my face and doing all the masks and stuff. But it's so good. And you feel so great afterwards, you know, when you clean your face at night and put your little night cream and stuff. And because I'm an old auntie over here,
oh my God, what did you say?
I definitely aspire to expensive products. Okay.
Yeah.
So right now I'm like middle range, but I actually just saw that Uncle Pharrell Williams, who looks like he's fucking 17 for the last 20 years, just dropped a skincare line.
I saw that
that's
as
called
well.
Human Rays. And I was checking the products, and y'all better come through for Christmas, okay? Because, you know, I would not mind. There's like, it's rice based, it's vegan, of course, and, you know, cruelty free, la la la. And it looks really good. So yeah, but that's super important. So I feel you.
Yeah, absolutely. I have seen a lot of celebrities going on this whole trend as well. Because I think like a lot of people have been doing this whole skincare thing as well. TikTok has also really done like has put like products like The Ordinary, for example, they've gotten very, very popular because of like TikTok videos and all of those things. Because yeah, but like I've seen a lot of celebrities also then getting onto like the bandwagon and trying to sell products as well. But I must say, like with celebrities, I'm always kind of very careful because someone like Pharrell, he does have good skin. That is a fact. But sometimes I'm like, they obviously do like so many other things with professionals that we don't see that also contributes to like their beautiful skin. So I'm also always just kind of like, I may buy your products, but I'm not expecting to look like you do because obviously you put like thousands more dollars into other appointments with some other skin
which
professionals.
we peasants don't have.
Exactly. So I'm always kind of like,
Yeah, I see you, but also I know that there's much more behind. And also, to be fair, nutrition girl, drinking water, like so many other things play into
fruits, vegetables.
Yes, so much. That's super important. Yeah.
Very.
I want my black sisters to drink water. Okay, drink your water, girl. Drink your tea. That's very important.
Stay hydrated.
Yes, moisturize. You were talking about, not seeing a lot of people that look like you, in school, for example, and stuff. And so I want to ask, is there one or multiple black women that particularly inspire you? Maybe that's recent, maybe that's from years ago already. Maybe they're famous, maybe they're actually super close to you and you know them in real life. Whoever.
It's very funny. I think like this year especially has really changed like the role models I look up to. Because I feel like, I don't know if you also had that, but like this year celebrities were very annoying.
Oof, listen. This was the year for them to learn how to shut up, but sadly, listen.
And this is all of them. It's not just white celebrities, but also a lot of black celebrities were very annoying.
Very.
So I think in a sense, because they were just out of touch.
As fuck. Like they really saw their real face. You want to act like you're doing charity the whole year and helping but really,
no.
The life you're living is completely out of touch.
No,
and this showed.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like it mostly showed like when it was like when there was a lot of protests happening, and then you would literally just see celebrities mostly, firstly, telling black people to calm down instead of condemning the clear, injustice that is at hand. So I think that was for me, like, my answer, if you had asked me before any of this would have happened, may have been very different. It may have been a list full of like a lot of celebrities or a lot of politicians. But I think this year has really taught me not to stan politicians and a lot of celebrities as well. Like celebrity culture just has to be abolished.
For real.
At the end of the day, their interests are with, capital and all of those things. So
you know what? Don't get me started, girl.
We're not going to go too much into that. That's a whole conversation on its own. But so I definitely do think like a lot of the people that I have been really appreciating the most is just the everyday black women who are around me, like, family members, my mother, obviously, primarily, but also just, other grassroots activists who have been doing so much of the work behind the scenes. A lot of black women as well are really doing so much of that hard work behind the scenes. They have been doing it for decades before, everything with the decolonization became a trend.
Right.
As it did this year. They have been doing that work day in, day out for decades. And you won't see them, obviously, like on your magazine covers and all of those things. But they are, in my sense, I have gained like this different appreciation for them. Like those real, genuine grassroots activists, a lot of black and brown women in those spaces, specifically a lot of black women, obviously, who speak of things that I also experience.
Right.
Yeah, like I I think of like a couple of people like Nadia Ansai. She wrote like this book this year that came out this year on like it's called Dochter van de Decolonisatie. So basically, in English, daughter of the decolonization. So she's really speaking about Belgium's colonial history and how it pertains to her specific family history as well. And she's speaking about how Belgium itself needs to be decolonized. And she also studies where I study at the KU Leuven. She's also speaking about her experience as a Black student, which is obviously years before I started studying. But it's so similar to mine. Like, she's speaking about how her courses was just very Eurocentric and how there were literally almost no Black people in the course that she was following, all of these things, but also like a lot of other Black activists who are like in the cultural world, who were breaking barriers. I'm thinking of someone like Melat. She's making some big power moves in the arts and culture world. I think in Brussels, she's also been doing a lot of work behind the scenes. There's so many people that I can't come up with, but the essence is just a lot of Black women who have been doing a lot of the grounding work of decolonization and so much more activism. And they don't always get the shine, obviously. But they do, they really do deserve it, I think.
Definitely. Yeah. I agree. Is there a specific Black person or group of Black women, for example, that you would want to send love to?
Yeah, I was thinking about this because I think for me, it would really be, to be very specific, I think I would really like to send love to dark-skinned Black women, because it's crazy, but it was like literally, I think it was a couple of weeks ago. As usual, like I'm on Twitter too much, but it was on Twitter. It was on Twitter. I just woke up and then I was taking a break from studying, and then I was on Twitter. Literally, the first tweet I see is this person who made a PowerPoint presentation and filmed it. They made a PowerPoint presentation about how Black women were not desirable, and how they were ugly, and how they're more likely to be, basically, I'm just going to say the words like bitches and whores and all of those things, and how even Black men, for example, didn't even want to be with them because they're just not desirable in that sense. And then even though there were like different types of Black women who were like being discussed in this extensive PowerPoint, you could clearly see like the darker they got, the more slurs that were being thrown at them, and the less desirable they were being seen, and the more dehumanized they were being. Like it was literally like this scale of like going to like the darkest skinned Black woman and just giving all of the slurs you can think of to them. And I know it's not something that you should pay too much attention to, because obviously it's just some person who just wanted to fool around and all of those things. But I do think, in a sense, that having grown up as well, and it's not just here in Belgium, even when I was in Zimbabwe, I've always been like one of the more darker skinned girls or women in my friend groups, just in general. I think that those things do have like a very big impact on your self-esteem, just on your happiness, because you genuinely just came on Twitter. You didn't even say anything to anybody, but that's the first thing you see. And it's just, it genuinely just is very, it's just very distressing. And I think obviously I'm a bit older and I can place it somewhere, and I can sort of contextualize it, and I can know that it's coming from a place where that person who made that had a problem themselves, or the people who also think similarly, they are the ones with the problem. But I can imagine if you're young. I mean, I grew up and I wasn't really good. I only had Twitter when I was like 15 or 16 or something. So, I didn't grow up with this presence of the social media and hearing these things constantly on different social media platforms. But I can imagine if you're younger and you're a dark-skinned black girl, you're just going on Twitter or, I don't know, TikTok. That's where a lot of kids are these days. And there's generally so many videos that are like this. It has such a big impact on you. So I think it's just very important to just be very conscious of how those experiences really, really have a big impact and everlasting impact on how dark-skinned black girls and women feel. Because I remember vividly what people said in Zimbabwe about me, about my skin. I remember it like to the word.
Yeah.
I can tell you all of it. So that means, and I know that then also has to be the case for a lot of other people like me. So I think that it's just very important for me to be very affirming for dark-skinned black women who have similar experiences, because I do feel that there is, it's just this unprovoked hatred that's directed towards them. And I think obviously to all black women, I'm not trying to like say that it doesn't exist for other black women who are not necessarily darker skinned, but it's obviously something that I can relate to because it's my own personal experience. And I do feel that, that colorism aspect and all of those things are very, very present. Even like in a predominantly white country like here, you still do, see the effects of it. So yeah, I think that's who I'd particularly like to send love to, just dark-skinned girls and women, dark-skinned black girls and women. Yeah.
It's so important, everything you just said, and thank you for saying that. I think we need to keep having these conversations because dark-skinned black women are erased, they are mistreated, they are disrespected all day, every day, within our own black communities and outside, and this is just too much. So sending much, much, much love to all of our dark-skinned sisters out there, definitely. My last question, love, I'm checking if everything is still recording.
It still seems to be recording.
Yes, I feel like we could talk for hours. This is so interesting. I love this. I want to ask you, how do you want to be remembered as an ancestor?
Wow. Oh, I have to think about that. So how would I like to be remembered as an ancestor?
How would you like the kids to be talking about, oh yeah, Auntie Nozizwe, oh, she was this and this and that? The legacy that you want to leave behind.
Oh, that's so hard. It's such an existential question.
Yeah, girl, that's what I do. Okay, we're not out here to play.
Oh my God. Yeah, I think. Yeah, I think I would just like. I just hope to have, in a sense, contributed to. Contributed hopefully through like what I am studying at the moment, because I am very, very passionate about like human rights, within like everything that has to do with like law, because that's obviously what I'm studying, but I am very passionate about human rights. I just hope to, in whichever career path I then end up in, to at least be able to contribute to the human rights of Black people throughout the world just being respected. And I just hope that that can be very prominent, and that it's also very clear for people, and that they can remember me in that sense as someone who really tried to do things for a greater community at large and not just for me, you know? Because I feel like, yeah, that definitely is like a lot of a driving force for me. Like when I'm doing now, like we're doing our thesis, when I was choosing my topic, I was really thinking about how can I research something that is about the communities I really care about, but that has something to do with obviously the expertise within the legal field. I feel like that does drive my decision. So I hope in a sense that can be visible when I am an ancestor, that it can be seen as like a contribution, obviously, to like a much bigger fight, because it's not just about me. There's also a lot of other people who are doing similar things, of course, but that I just hope to be seen within that realm as well. Yeah, I think that will be I think that's definitely what I hope to be remembered as. Yeah.
That's great. I'm sure you will be, girl. Listen,
Yeah.
with all the work you're doing, all of the things you're putting into place, being vocal about all of the issues around Black people and for the community, you're doing so much. And I'm thankful for you, and we all are. And I'm so proud of you. And I can't wait to see, which places do you go, because you're going places.
Yeah, I hope so.
You are, definitely. So thank you so much for accepting the invite and for being part of Reclaiming Our Joy.
No, thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm so happy and thankful that we got to record an archive of your joy and of your life, and just a piece of, how you were feeling today and in these times. And I hope that we will be able to, listen to this in a few years and be like, yo, this is, this was Nozizwe at 25, yo.
Yeah, I'm going to be like, what was I thinking? Yeah, no, but thank you so much for having me. I hope I was joyful enough, because I think I may be someone who can be very pessimistic. So I don't know. I hope there were enough joyful elements in the podcast. Obviously the tears. No, but I think it was very nice. And as I said, like for me, it was very different in the sense of like really speaking about these very personal things, which I love hearing other people speak about. But for me, it was like, okay, this is new. But I hope in a sense that it can help, and that it can make someone feel heard or just affirmed in whatever it is that they're feeling. But I'm really looking forward to like the end product, and hearing all the other guests as well.
Definitely, yeah. But I just want to emphasize, like, there's no such thing as the pressure to be joyful. And I want to make that point, with the podcast, that like, yes, it is called Reclaiming Our Joy, and yes, I want to record archives of joy, of Black women, but also I was recording the trailer and I failed so many times. And when you're going to see the end product of that, like just the videos, I'm just like, so Reclaiming Our Joy is a podcast about I'm done, And I don't think we should force joy. Like it should be something natural, and it would be completely fake, for me to be like, so just make sure that you smile, like make sure that everything you talk about is joyful. No, that's not our lives. Yeah.
Exactly.
So I wanted something that is super real and genuine and authentic, and you came through with that. So I'm very happy about that. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you again for having me.
Cool. Thanks, love. I'll see you soon. Oh, yeah. No, very important. Where can people support you, follow you, find you? Please give all the handles, all the profiles, the link trees, the podcast. Okay.
Yeah. So you can find me. Yeah. Okay. I'm mostly on Twitter. I think that's the most interesting platform to follow me. So my handle on there is just at Nozizwe Dube.
I'll put all of the links in the description.
Yeah. My Instagram is at Nozizwe_D, if I'm not mistaken. I am on there. Not as much as Twitter, but you can see me on there sometimes. On Facebook, I'm on there as well. I think it should just look for Nozizwe Dube. You will see me through the search. Yes, that is something, like I am so bad, because I did start a podcast. I did start a podcast, and you were on there. I did start a podcast a couple of months ago. It's called Nozizwe Delves Into, so you can find that on all podcast platforms. But there is only one episode, because the other episodes haven't made their way on there yet. But it is not like a dead podcast. It's still something is coming up, but not, it just hasn't. I haven't been able to get to it yet. But yeah, those are like the main. Yeah, those are the main platforms that I'm really active on. So it will be great if people can follow me on there, really. And yeah.
Perfect. Yes, do follow Nozizwe everywhere. And make sure you listen to the first episode of the podcast, where there was a really interesting activist and Black feminist ranting about the shitty ways that governments have been handling the pandemic. Yes. So yeah, make sure you check that out. Cool. Thank you so much. much.
Okay, you're welcome.
All right. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Reclaiming Our Joy. I hope you enjoyed it. To give some visibility, strength, and love to this podcast, make sure to subscribe on all podcast platforms as well as on the YouTube channel. And if you have any questions, comments, cake recipe, joy to share, if you want to work together, feel free to reach out by email at reclaimingourjoy@gmail.com. Sending love.